The credit card alert on my phone showed a charge for $347 at the Riverside Inn, a boutique hotel 20 minutes from our house, at 2:55 p.m. on a Tuesday. My wife, Jessica, was supposed to be at her book club. I sat in my truck outside the construction site, staring at that notification like it might rearrange itself into something that made sense. We'd been married 11 years. We had 2 kids, Emma, 9, and Tyler, 6. Jessica taught 4th grade at Oakmont Elementary. I ran my own commercial construction company. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Happy, I thought. The Riverside Inn wasn't where you grabbed lunch with friends. It was where you rented rooms by the hour, though they pretended otherwise with their day-rate spa packages. Everyone in town knew what it really was. My finger hovered over her contact. Then I pulled it back. Something told me not to call. Not yet. Instead, I opened our shared credit card account and scrolled back through the previous 3 months. There it was. The same charge, same place, appearing like clockwork every other Tuesday. 6 times total. Always between 2 and 3 RPM. Always on days Jessica said she had book club. My hands started shaking. Not from sadness, that would come later. This was pure adrenaline, the kind that floods your system when you realize everything you believed was a lie. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. Jessica had male friends from work, went out with her girlfriends on weekends, and I never questioned it. Why would I? We'd built a life together. We had a mortgage, kids in soccer, a golden retriever named Biscuit. We were planning a trip to Disney World for Christmas. But this wasn't innocent. I called my foreman, Danny, and told him to handle the rest of the day. Then I drove home, my mind racing through possibilities, explanations, anything that might make this make sense. Maybe she was planning a surprise party. Maybe she was meeting a friend going through a divorce who needed privacy. Maybe, no. I wasn't going to lie to myself. I knew what this was. Our house sat on a quiet cul-de-sac in Westfield, a suburb of Indianapolis. Red brick, white shutters, a basketball hoop over the garage where Tyler and I shot hoops every evening. I pulled into the driveway at 4:15 p.m. Jessica's Honda Pilot wasn't there yet. She usually got home around 4:30 after picking up the kids from her mother's house. I went straight to our bedroom. Jessica wasn't good with technology, never had been. She used the same password for everything, MTY2013, the kids' initials, and the year we bought the house. I opened her laptop and navigated to her email. It took me less than 5 minutes to find what I was looking for. The emails were in a folder labeled School Stuff. Clever, since I never looked at her work emails. But these weren't from other teachers. They were from someone named Blake Patterson, and they went back 7 months. I started with the oldest ones. They began professionally enough. Blake was apparently a parent of one of her students, a single dad who'd recently moved to the area. The early emails were about his daughter's progress in class, questions about homework assignments. Thanks for Jessica's patience with the transition. Then, about 5 months ago, the tone shifted. I can't stop thinking about our conversation after parent-teacher conferences. You really understand what it's like to feel unseen in your own life. Meeting you for coffee yesterday was the highlight of my week. I haven't felt this connected to someone in years. I know this is complicated, but I need to see you again. Soon. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. The emails became more frequent, more intimate. They talked about their feelings, their marriages. Apparently Blake was divorced, had been for 2 years. They talked about me, about how I was always working and didn't understand Jessica anymore, about how she felt invisible in our marriage. I wanted to punch the screen. I worked 60-hour weeks to give our family everything we had, to pay for Emma's piano lessons and Tyler's travel soccer team, to save for college funds and that Disney trip. And this was how she saw it. I was the villain for providing. Then I found the recent ones, from the past 3 months. They'd stopped being careful with their words. Tuesday can't come fast enough. I need your hands on me again. 2 hours isn't enough. I want a whole night with you. I'm falling in love with you, Jess. We need to figure out how to make this real. I sat there on the edge of our bed, the bed we'd picked out together 8 years ago, the bed where we'd conceived both our children, and felt something inside me go cold and hard. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was calculated, ongoing betrayal. 7 months of lies. 7 months of her coming home and kissing me hello while she'd been with him. 7 months of sitting across from me at dinner, helping the kids with homework, lying next to me at night, all while carrying on this secret life. I heard the garage door open. Jessica was home. I closed the laptop and stood up, straightening my shirt. My reflection in the mirror looked calm, composed. Inside, I was a hurricane. But I'd learned a long time ago in business that emotion was the enemy of strategy. If you wanted to win, you had to think clearly, and I was going to win. I walked downstairs as Jessica came through the door from the garage, Emma and Tyler bouncing in behind her with their backpacks. "Daddy!" Tyler launched himself at my legs. I scooped him up, hugging him tight. "Hey, buddy, how was school?" "We made volcanoes in science." Jessica smiled at me, setting her purse on the counter. She looked beautiful, like always. Blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing the blue dress I'd told her I loved. "You're home early." "Finished up the walkthrough ahead of schedule," I said, my voice steady. "Thought I'd surprise you guys." She kissed my cheek. Her lips felt like poison. "That's sweet," she said. "I'm going to start dinner." "Spaghetti okay?" "Perfect," I said. And I watched her move around our kitchen, humming softly, completely unaware that I knew everything. I watched Jessica move through the house like nothing had changed. She hummed while unpacking groceries. Laughed at something Tyler said. Kissed the top of Emma's head while helping with homework. The performance was flawless. Tuesday came. Book Club Tuesday. I'd spent the previous days in careful observation. No confrontation. No slip in my facade. I went to work sites, reviewed contracts, kissed her goodbye each morning. At night, I held her when she curled against me in bed, her hair smelling of lavender shampoo. Those lips had been on Blake Patterson 3 days ago. The thought sat in my chest like concrete. Tuesday morning, I left for work at my usual time. 6:30, coffee in hand, quick wave to Jessica as she stood at the kitchen window in her robe. I drove to the Riverside Inn instead. The building looked worse in daylight. Peeling paint on the window frames, cracked asphalt in the parking lot. A neon sign that probably looked romantic at dusk just looked tired at 7 a.m. I parked across the street at a gas station and waited. At 9:15, a silver Lexus pulled into the lot. Blake Patterson stepped out. Tall, athletic build, expensive haircut. He wore dark jeans and a button-down shirt. Casual, confident. He checked his phone, then walked into the lobby. I took 3 photos with my phone. Clear shots of his face, his car, the license plate. Then I drove to my office and worked. Reviewed the Highland Plaza project. Approved invoices. Called a supplier about delayed materials. Normal Tuesday tasks. At 2:30, I texted Danny. Taking off early, family thing. I drove back to the Riverside Inn. Jessica's Honda Pilot sat in the lot now, parked 2 spaces from the Lexus. I pulled into the gas station again and settled in to wait. They emerged at 4:47 p.m. Jessica came out first, checking her phone, adjusting her purse strap. She'd changed clothes. Different shirt than this morning. She kept a change of clothes somewhere. Maybe in her car. Maybe in that hotel room. Blake followed 30 seconds later, far enough apart to seem unconnected. But I watched him look at her as she walked to her car. Watched her glance back. He wanted to kiss her goodbye. I could see it in his body language. She shook her head slightly. Not here, not in public. Smart. I took more photos, both of them. Their cars, time-stamped, geotagged. Jessica drove away at 4:52. Blake left 2 minutes after. I sat in my truck until 5:15, then drove home. Wednesday, I called Tom Brennan. We'd gone to high school together. He'd become a divorce attorney. Good one, from what I'd heard. He'd handled Jerry Mitchell's divorce 2 years ago. Jerry walked away with full custody in the house. Need to see you, I said. Soon as possible. This about what I think it's about? Yeah. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring everything. I printed the emails that night while Jessica slept. 47 pages of correspondence between her and Blake. I'd forwarded them all to a new email account she didn't know existed, backed them up on a flash drive, took screenshots on my phone. The credit card statements came next. 3 months of Riverside Inn charges, all on Tuesdays. I printed those too. The photos from yesterday went into a folder on my computer. Backed up, saved to the cloud. At midnight, I stood in my home office organizing evidence of my wife's affair into a neat manila folder. She called from the bedroom. Honey, coming to bed? In a minute. Her voice sounded sleepy, affectionate. I wondered if Blake was texting her right now, if she was deleting messages while I compiled documentation. Tom's office occupied the 3rd floor of a building downtown. Clean, professional, framed diplomas on the wall. He was shorter than me, balding, with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. We shook hands. Show me what you've got. I laid it out. The credit card statements first, then the printed emails, then the photos from Tuesday. Tom read in silence, flipped through pages, studied the images on my phone. How long have you known? 6 days. You haven't confronted her? No. Good. He set down the emails. This is solid, very solid. Indiana's a no-fault state, but this kind of documentation helps with everything else. Custody, asset division, spousal support. I want full custody. Based on this, we've got a strong case. Affair partner is a parent at her school. That's a judgment issue. Shows poor decision-making that affects the kid's stability. What about the house? You bought it before the affair? 2013, 9 years before this started. We'll argue for you to keep it. You're the stable parent. Kids need continuity. She's the one who violated the marriage contract. He leaned back in his chair. What's your financial situation? Construction company's doing well. Cleared $400,000 last year. She makes 52 as a teacher. She'll want spousal support. No. Tom smiled. Thin, professional. We'll fight it. With this evidence, we can argue she doesn't deserve it. But Indiana law is tricky. She might get something short-term. How short? Year, maybe 2. Depends on the judge. I felt my jaw tighten. She gets money after what she did? Sometimes. But we'll minimize it. And we'll make sure you get what matters. The kids, the house, your business protected. He tapped the folder. This documentation gives us leverage. She won't want this aired in court. We can use that. How? We offer a settlement. She agrees to minimal custody, no spousal support, walks away clean. In exchange, we keep this quiet. No public trial. No details that might affect her teaching position. And if she doesn't agree? Then we go to court and show the judge everything. Her affair with a parent from her school. The hotel visits during work hours, the lies. All of it. I nodded slowly. When do we start? I'll draft the papers today. You'll serve her next week. He paused. You ready for this? Once we file, there's no going back. I'm ready. The next Tuesday, I told Jessica I had a site inspection in Fort Wayne. 3-hour drive. I'd be gone all day. She kissed me goodbye at the door. Drive safe. Always do. I drove to the gas station across from the Riverside Inn. Blake arrived at 9:20. Jessica at 9:35. I'd hired a private investigator this time. Professional. Recommended by Tom. The guy sat in an unmarked sedan with a camera that had a lens like a telescope. Got it, he said into his phone at 9:37. Both subjects entering the building together. They stayed inside for 2 hours and 18 minutes. The investigator got photos of them entering, separate photos of them leaving. A shot through the lobby window showing them at the front desk together. This enough? He asked. More than enough. Friday evening, I took Jessica to dinner. Her favorite Italian place downtown. Candlelight, wine, the works. She looked beautiful, blue dress, hair down, smiling across the table at me. This is nice, she said. We should do this more often. Yeah, we should. I feel like we've been disconnected lately. You're always working. The irony tasted like metal. I know, I'm sorry. I just miss you sometimes. Her hand covered mine. Miss us? I looked at her fingers on mine, the same fingers that had touched Blake Patterson 4 days ago. I miss us too, I said. We ate pasta, drank wine, talked about the kids, Emma's piano recital next month, Tyler's soccer tournament. Normal married conversation. She had no idea. When we got home, I made love to my wife for the last time. Slow, tender. She whispered that she loved me. I said it back. Afterward, she fell asleep with her head on my chest. I lay awake until 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, planning. Monday morning, Tom called. Papers are ready. When do you want a server? Tonight? You sure? Positive. Process server will be at your house at 6:30. Make sure you're there. Make sure the kids aren't. I called my mother. Can you pick up Emma and Tyler from school today? Keep them overnight? Of course, everything okay? We'll be soon. At 6:15, I sat in the living room waiting. Jessica was in the kitchen making dinner. Chicken and rice. The house smelled like garlic and rosemary. The doorbell rang at 6:28. I'll get it, I called. Jessica appeared in the kitchen doorway, wooden spoon in hand. Who is it? I opened the door. The process server stood on our porch. Young guy, professional. He held a manila envelope. Jessica Campbell? She stepped forward, confused. Yes? You've been served. He handed her the envelope and walked away. Jessica stared at it, then at me. What is this? I met her eyes. Divorce papers. Her face went white. What? I know about Blake. I know about the Riverside Inn. I know everything. The wooden spoon clattered to the floor. The process server walked back to his car and I watched him drive away. Then I turned to face Jessica. She stood in the doorway holding the papers, her face pale. What is this? Divorce papers. I can see that. Her voice shook. This is some kind of joke, right? Some kind of... No joke. She looked down at the documents, flipping through the pages. Her hands were trembling. I don't understand. We were fine. Last week we went to dinner. We haven't been anything. Stop. She held up one hand. Just stop and talk to me. Tell me what's going on. I walked past her into the house. My house. The one I'd bought with money I earned while she was screwing Blake Patterson every other Tuesday. She followed me inside. Where are the kids? Safe. What does that mean? Where are Emma and Tyler? With my sister. They'll stay there until this is sorted out. Jessica's eyes widened. You took my children? Our children. And I didn't take them. I made arrangements for their care during a difficult time. She set the papers down on the kitchen counter, her movements careful and deliberate. When she looked at me again, her expression had shifted. The shock was giving way to something else. Calculation, maybe, or strategy. Okay, she said. Obviously something happened. Something upset you. But serving me with divorce papers without even talking to me first? That's insane. Is it? Yes, it is. She stepped closer. We can work through whatever this is. We always have. I almost laughed. When have we worked through anything? Our whole marriage. Every disagreement. Every rough patch. Name one. She blinked. What? Name one rough patch we worked through. I don't. This isn't the point. The point is that you're throwing away 11 years without even giving me a chance to. To what? I leaned against the counter. Explain? Apologize? Tell me it didn't mean anything? Her face went white again. I don't know what you think happened, but Blake Patterson. She froze. 7 months, I continued. Starting with emails about his daughter's reading level, then coffee, then lunch, then the Riverside Inn every other Tuesday while I thought you were at book club. Jessica's mouth opened, but no sound came out. $347, I said. That's what you charge to our credit card each time. Room service, champagne, the works. You didn't even try to hide it. I can explain. Don't. Please. She moved toward me. Just let me. I said don't. My voice came out harder than I'd intended. I don't want your explanations. I don't want to hear about how lonely you were, or how I worked too much, or how he understood you in ways I never could. I've already read all of that. Her eyes widened. You read my emails. Every single one. You had no right. I had every right. Shared account, shared computer, shared credit card. All of it in my name, by the way. The house, too. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the man she'd married would have confronted her immediately, would have yelled and cried and demanded answers. That man was gone. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Long enough? The dinner last week, when you took me to Meridian? Yes. And the night after that, when we... She stopped, her face flushing. You knew. You knew the whole time. Yes. Oh my God. She backed away from me. That's sick. That's actually sick. Is it? More sick than sleeping with a parent from your school? More sick than lying to your husband for 7 months? More sick than planning to leave me for him after I was dead? Her face went from red to white. What are you talking about? The delayed email service. The one you set up with a confession to Blake. Instructions to wait until after my funeral. She grabbed the counter for support. That's how I found out, actually. I was testing my own delayed email system, making sure my business affairs would be handled if something happened to me. And I discovered you'd set up the same service. Isn't that funny? We both thought we were being so responsible. I never... She stopped. Started again. That email wasn't... It was just a draft. I never sent it. You set it to send automatically if you didn't log in for 30 days. That's not a draft. That's a plan. Jessica sank into one of the kitchen chairs. This can't be happening. It is. The kids. What are you going to tell them? The truth. Age-appropriate versions, but the truth. You can't. She looked up at me, her eyes wet. Please. They don't need to know about this. They need to know why their mother won't have custody. What? She stood up so fast the chair scraped against the floor. You think you're taking my children? I know I am. No court in this state will give you full custody. I'm their mother. I'm a teacher, for God's sake. I have a stable job, a clean record, and a 7-month affair with a parent from your school, documented in explicit detail across 47 pages of printed emails, plus photographs of you entering and leaving the Riverside Inn with Blake Patterson on 6 separate occasions, plus credit card statements showing a pattern of deception. She stared at me. I've already spoken with an attorney, I continued, filed for divorce on grounds of adultery, requested full custody with supervised visitation for you. The documentation is thorough. You planned this. Her voice was barely a whisper. All of it. The dinner, the affection, everything. You were gathering evidence. Yes? While pretending everything was fine. The way you pretended for 7 months. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to read those papers carefully. You're going to get your own attorney, and then we're going to negotiate a settlement. And if I don't? Then we go to court. Every email gets read into the record. Every photograph gets shown to the judge. Your colleagues at Oakmont Elementary find out. Blake's ex-wife finds out. I'm sure she'd love to know he's been sleeping with their daughter's teacher. The whole thing becomes public. Jessica's hands clenched into fists. You wouldn't. Try me. We stood there in the kitchen where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where the kids had done homework and we'd hosted birthday parties, and I'd kissed her goodbye every morning for 11 years. The afternoon light came through the windows, making everything look normal and familiar. Nothing was normal. Nothing was familiar. I loved you, she said finally. No, you didn't. I did. I do. This thing with Blake, it was a mistake, a terrible mistake, but it doesn't erase everything we built together. It erases all of it. That's not fair. I laughed then. Actually laughed. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I made a mistake. People make mistakes. 7 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. You chose him every other Tuesday for 7 months. You chose to lie to me, to our kids, to everyone. You chose to plan a future with him that started after I was dead. I wasn't planning. Stop lying. My voice cut through hers. Just stop. The lying is over. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. What happens now? You have 72 hours to vacate the house. This is my home. It's my house, my name on the deed, and I want you out. You can't just kick me out. Read the papers, temporary orders. You get 72 hours to collect your personal belongings. Everything else stays. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Blake's place, maybe, or a hotel. The Riverside Inn has vacancy rates, I'm sure. She looked at me like I was someone she'd never met. Maybe she was right. I'll fight this, she said. I'll fight for my kids and my home and my marriage. You already lost. I walked toward the door. Wait. Her voice stopped me. Can I at least see them? Emma and Tyler? Can I talk to them? Not yet. They're my children. And they deserve better than a mother who lies. I left her standing in the kitchen, walked out to my truck, and drove away. My hands were steady on the wheel. My breathing was calm. Everything was going exactly according to plan. The divorce papers hit Jessica's lawyer's desk on a Monday morning. I knew because Tom called me at 9:47 a.m. They're requesting a continuance, he said. Standard move. They want more time to prepare. How much time? 60 days. I'm going to counter with 30. I was in my truck outside Tyler's soccer practice. Through the windshield, I could see him running drills with the other 6-year-olds, his face red from exertion. Emma sat beside me doing homework. Whatever you think is best, I said. There's something else. They're filing a motion for temporary custody. Joint physical custody pending the final hearing. My hand tightened on the phone. Based on what? The usual arguments. Stable home environment, established routine, best interests of the children. They're claiming you removed the kids from the marital home without proper cause. I have 47 pages of proper cause. I know, and the judge will see them. But be prepared for Jessica to get some parenting time before this is over. The court doesn't like complete separation unless there's abuse or endangerment. After we hung up, Emma looked at me. Is that about Mom? Yeah. When can we see her? Soon, probably. She went back to her math worksheet. She hadn't cried since the first night. Tyler had cried for 3 nights straight, then stopped asking questions. They were adapting. Kids always did. My sister Rachel had been incredible. She'd cleared out her guest room, bought bunk beds, rearranged her whole life without complaint. But I could see the strain. Her husband Greg had been patient, but having 2 extra kids in a 3-bedroom house was wearing on everyone. I needed to figure out something more permanent. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat in Rachel's kitchen going through the financial documents Tom had requested. Bank statements, tax returns, business records. Everything needed to be organized, categorized, ready for discovery. Rachel brought me coffee. "You look terrible." "Thanks." "I'm serious. When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours?" I couldn't remember. The days had blurred together. Work, kids, lawyers, paperwork. The construction company needed me, but I'd been operating on autopilot. Danny had taken over most of the day-to-day decisions. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. None of this is fine." She sat down across from me. "Have you talked to anyone? A therapist, maybe?" "I don't need a therapist." Everyone needs a therapist during a divorce. I looked at the stack of papers in front of me. 11 years of marriage reduced to financial statements and custody schedules. "I just need to get through this," I said. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then, Jessica called me. I looked up. Yesterday. She wanted to know how the kids were doing, if they were okay. "What did you tell her?" "That they're adjusting, that they ask about her." Rachel paused. She was crying. "Good. Don't be like that." "Like what?" "Cold, mean. That's not you." I went back to the bank statements. "You don't know what I am anymore." The temporary custody hearing was set for 3 weeks out. Tom warned me that judges in Indiana generally favored keeping both parents involved, even in cases of infidelity. Adultery might affect property division, but it rarely eliminated parenting time. "Unless we can prove she's an unfit mother," Tom said. "And right now, we can't. She's a teacher. No history of substance abuse, no criminal record, no evidence of neglect." We were in his office. Through the window, I could see downtown Indianapolis, the monument rising above the buildings. "So she cheats on her husband for 7 months and gets rewarded with joint custody?" "She gets to maintain a relationship with her children. That's not a reward. That's basic family law." I hated it. Hated the system, hated the waiting, hated that Jessica still had any power in this situation. "What about the delayed email?" I asked. "The one about waiting until after my funeral?" Tom leaned back in his chair. "Tell me again exactly what it said." I'd printed it out. The email had been sitting in her drafts folder, scheduled to send to Blake 3 days after any hypothetical death of mine. I pulled out the copy and read it aloud. "Blake, if you're reading this, it means he's gone. We can finally be together the way we should have been from the start. Wait until after the funeral. We need to be careful about appearances, but then we can start our real life. I love you. Always, Jay." Tom was silent. "That's premeditation," I said. "That's her planning for my death." "It's disturbing, but it's not evidence of intent to harm. People write all kinds of things in drafts they never send." "She set it up with a delayed email service. That takes effort. That takes planning." "Has she ever threatened you? Has there been any violence in the marriage?" "No." "Any suspicious incidents? Close calls? Unexplained accidents?" I thought about it. The past 7 months, going back through everything. Nothing stood out. "No," I admitted. "Then it's just a disturbing email. We can use it to demonstrate her emotional affair and her long-term planning with Blake. But we can't claim she was plotting to kill you." "What if she was?" Tom met my eyes. "Was she?" I wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe Jessica was capable of something that dark, that calculating. It would make everything simpler. Would justify the rage I felt every time I thought about her. But the truth was, I didn't know. "I don't think so," I finally said. But the fact that I have to wonder, I know. The preliminary custody arrangement came through 2 days before the hearing. Jessica would get supervised visitation, 4 hours every Saturday at a neutral location, with Rachel present as the supervisor. It's temporary, Tom said. Just until the hearing. The judge wants to see that she's maintaining contact with the kids. The first visit was scheduled for that Saturday at a park in Carmel. I drove Emma and Tyler there in silence. They were both nervous. Emma kept fidgeting with her seatbelt. Tyler asked 3 times if Mom was going to be mad at him. She's not mad at you, I said. None of this is your fault. Rachel was already there when we arrived, sitting at a picnic table. Jessica's car pulled in 2 minutes later. I watched her get out. She looked smaller somehow, thinner. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she wasn't wearing makeup. When she saw the kids, her face crumpled. Emma ran to her. Tyler hesitated, then followed. I stayed by my truck, watching Jessica hold our children. She was crying. They were crying. Rachel stood a respectful distance away, giving them space while maintaining her supervisory role. Jessica looked at me over Emma's head. Our eyes met. I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction. Just a vast emptiness where 11 years of marriage used to be. I got back in my truck and drove away. That night, Rachel called. The visit went okay. Jessica brought coloring books and snacks. They played on the playground. She asked them about school. Did she ask about me? No. Good. She did ask if you were taking care of yourself. I almost laughed. That's rich. I think she's genuinely worried about you. She should worry about herself. The hearing's in 5 days. I hung up and went back to work. There was a commercial bid due by the end of the week, and I'd barely looked at the specs. The business couldn't fall apart just because my marriage had. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you don't want to hear from me, but please make sure Emma takes her allergy medicine. She's been sneezing a lot. Jessica. She must have gotten a new phone number. I deleted the text without responding. 5 minutes later, another one. Tyler's science project is due Friday. He'll need poster board and markers. Delete. I'm sorry for everything. I know that doesn't change anything, but I need you to know. I stared at that one for a long time before deleting it. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Rachel's guest bedroom. I'd taken over after moving the kids to the bunk beds and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, a judge would make preliminary decisions about custody, support, property. Tomorrow, the divorce became real in a way it hadn't been before. My phone lit up. Another text from Jessica's number. I saw the delayed email. I know how it looks, but I need you to understand. I never would have hurt you. Never. It was just a fantasy. A stupid, horrible fantasy. Please believe me. I read it 3 times. Then I typed a response. See you in court. The custody hearing was scheduled for Thursday morning at 9. I spent Tuesday and Wednesday preparing like I was bidding on a $50 million project. Tom had sent over a list of questions the judge might ask. I rehearsed answers in my truck during lunch breaks, in the shower, while reviewing blueprints. Emma's schedule, Tyler's allergies, their pediatrician's name, what they ate for breakfast, who their friends were. I knew all of it. Of course I knew all of it. Wednesday afternoon, Tom called. Jessica's attorney filed a motion, he said. They're requesting a psychological evaluation. For you. I pulled over into a gas station parking lot. What? Standard tactic when one parent is pushing for full custody. They're arguing that your emotional state might not be stable enough for sole guardianship. The speed of the divorce, the surveillance, the immediate custody grab. They're painting you as obsessive and controlling. I documented her affair. I know. And we'll argue that. But they're going to say you hired a private investigator to follow your wife. that you manipulated her into a romantic evening while secretly planning to destroy her, that you're using the children as weapons. He paused. How have you been sleeping? Fine. Truthfully, I watched a woman pump gas into a minivan, 2 kids in car seats in the back. 3, maybe 4 hours a night. That's what I thought. Listen, the evaluation isn't necessarily bad. It might actually help us. Shows you're transparent, nothing to hide. But you need to be careful in that hearing tomorrow. Don't let them bait you into anger. Don't appear vindictive. You're a concerned father protecting his children, not a scorned husband seeking revenge. I am protecting my children. I know you are. Make sure the judge knows it too. That night, Rachel brought Emma and Tyler back for dinner. I'd picked up pizza, their favorite, pepperoni and sausage from Gino's. Tyler climbed into my lap while we ate. Emma was quieter, pushing cheese around her plate. Mom texted me, she said finally. I kept my voice level. Yeah? What did she say? She asked if I was okay, if you were being nice to me. Emma looked up. I told her you're always nice to me. Was that okay? Something cracked in my chest. That was perfect, sweetheart. Is Mom in trouble? Rachel caught my eye across the table. I chose my words carefully. Mom and I are having grown-up problems, but you and Tyler didn't do anything wrong, and neither of you is in trouble, okay? But you're mad at her. I'm disappointed in some choices she made. That's different than being mad at you or your brother. Tyler looked up from his pizza. Can we still go to Disney? The trip was scheduled for July. I'd already paid the deposit. 5 nights at the Grand Floridian, park hopper passes, character dining reservations. We'll see, buddy. After Rachel took them back to her place, I sat in the kitchen with the lights off. The house was too quiet. I'd gotten used to it over the past week, but it still felt wrong, like holding my breath underwater. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Blake. We need to talk. I stared at it for 30 seconds. Then I blocked the number. 2 minutes later, another text from a different number. Please. Jessica is falling apart. I know you hate me, but she's not eating, not sleeping. She's talking about things that scare me. Just call me. 5 minutes. I typed and deleted 3 different responses. Finally settled on one. She made her choices. So did you. I blocked that number too. But his words stayed with me. Talking about things that scare me. What did that mean? Was she threatening to hurt herself? Or was this manipulation, another layer of lies designed to make me feel guilty? I called Tom. Jessica's boyfriend just texted me, twice from different numbers. What did he say? I read him the messages. Tom was quiet for a moment. Don't engage. If he contacts you again, forward it to me. If Jessica is genuinely in crisis, that's not your responsibility right now. She has family, friends, a therapist, hopefully. You reaching out helps no one. What if she does something? Then that's her choice, not yours. You didn't cause this. You discovered it and responded appropriately. Don't let them put that weight on you. After we hung up, I poured 2 fingers of bourbon. Sat at the kitchen table where Jessica and I had eaten 1,000 meals. Where I'd helped Emma with homework. Where Tyler had spilled an entire gallon of milk last month, and we'd all laughed while mopping it up. The delayed email sat in my mind like a tumor. After the funeral. Had she actually wanted me dead? Or was Blake right that it was just fantasy, some romantic notion of tragic circumstances bringing them together? I'd never know. Not really. People lied about their intentions as easily as they lied about book clubs and Tuesday afternoons. My phone buzzed again. Jessica this time. Please tell Emma I love her. Please. I didn't respond. Thursday morning arrived cold and gray. March in Indiana, winter refusing to let go. I put on my navy suit, the one I wore to important client meetings. White shirt, burgundy tie, polished shoes, professional, stable, reliable. Tom met me outside the courthouse at 8:30. Remember, calm, factual, focused on the children's best interests. They're going to try to make you look like you're punishing Jessica through custody. Don't take the bait. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Fluorescent lights, worn carpet, an American flag in the corner. Jessica sat at the opposite table with her attorney, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Holbrook. Jessica wore a gray dress, minimal makeup. She looked terrible. Hollow-eyed, thinner than she'd been 2 weeks ago. I felt nothing looking at her. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe that made me smart. Judge Carolyn Foster entered, a black woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain. We all stood. Please be seated. We're here for temporary custody arrangements in the matter of... She glanced at her notes. The dissolution of marriage between the petitioner and respondent regarding minor children Emma, age 9, and Tyler, age 6. Patricia Holbrook stood. Your Honor, we'd like to request that the current arrangement be modified to allow my client regular unsupervised visitation. Mrs. Bennett has been effectively separated from her children for over a week, based on allegations that, while serious, don't indicate any danger to the children's welfare. Judge Foster looked at Tom. Mr. Brennan? Tom stood. Your Honor, the petitioner has documented evidence of the respondent's ongoing extramarital affair, including meetings at a local hotel during times she claimed to be at professional obligations. More concerning is evidence that the respondent established an automated message to her affair partner to be sent in the event of the petitioner's death, suggesting premeditation of... That's a gross mischaracterization, Patricia interrupted. There's no evidence of any plan or intent to harm. It was a private message that was never meant to be discovered, written during an emotional moment. A private message, Tom said, instructing her lover on how to proceed after the funeral, suggesting they could finally be together. The petitioner has legitimate concerns about his safety and his children's welfare. Judge Foster held up a hand. I've reviewed the filings. Let's hear from the parties themselves. She looked at me. Mr. Bennett, why are you seeking full custody? I stood. My hands were steady. Your Honor, I want my children to have stability and honesty. For 7 months, my wife conducted an affair with a parent from her school. She lied to me, to our children, and to her employer about her whereabouts. She used time that should have been for our family to be with another man. I paused. But what concerns me most is the message she wrote. Whether she meant it literally or not, it shows a mindset where she'd imagined a life without me. I can't trust someone who's thought that way to make decisions about my children's welfare. Mrs. Bennett? The judge turned to Jessica. Jessica stood slowly. Her voice was barely audible. I made terrible mistakes. I'm not denying that. But I love my children more than anything in this world. I would never hurt them, or their father. The email was... It was stupid fantasy. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just want to see my kids. Please. Her voice broke on the last word. Judge Foster studied us both. Here's what's going to happen. I'm ordering a home study for both residences and psychological evaluations for both parents. Until those are complete, we'll continue supervised visitation for Mrs. Bennett. Patricia started to object, but the judge continued. However, supervision can be provided by a neutral third party, not the petitioner's family. Visitation will be increased to 3 times per week, 4 hours each visit. She looked directly at me. Mr. Bennett, I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But unless you can demonstrate actual danger to these children, I will not separate them from their mother permanently. Use this time to show me you can co-parent effectively. Both of you. The gavel came down. Blake's message sat in my phone like a live grenade. I stared at it for 3 full minutes before I started typing. What kind of things? The response came back in under a minute. She keeps saying she deserves to die, that she's destroyed everything. I found her in the bathtub last night and the water was pink. Not a lot of blood, but enough. My stomach went cold. Not from concern. That instinct had been surgically removed the night I read her emails. But from the sudden complication this represented. Did you take her to the hospital? She refused, made me promise not to tell anyone. But I can't watch her 24/7 and I'm scared she's going to do something worse. I set the phone down, walked to the kitchen window. The house felt enormous without Emma and Tyler's voices filling it. Rachel had them for another 2 days before they'd come back for the weekend. The court-ordered home study was scheduled for Monday morning. If Jessica actually hurt herself, the custody equation changed entirely. Either she'd be hospitalized and I'd get the kids by default, or she'd be dead and the whole thing would be over. The thought should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like standing on ice that was starting to crack. I picked up the phone again. Where is she now? At my place, sleeping. She hasn't been back to wherever she's staying in 2 days. So she'd moved in with Blake. That would look great in court. Has she eaten anything? A few bites this morning. I made her promise to try. I could picture it. Blake playing the concerned savior. Jessica the tragic victim of her own choices. The narrative she'd been building in those emails, that I'd driven her away through neglect, that she'd found true understanding with someone else, was now evolving into something darker. She wasn't just the wronged wife anymore. She was the broken woman, destroyed by her husband's cruelty. The phone rang. Blake's number. I let it ring 4 times before answering. We need to talk, he said. No preamble. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept. Face to face. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't care what you think is a good idea. Jessica is falling apart and you're the reason why. The anger in his voice was almost refreshing. At least it was honest. I'm the reason, I said. Not the 7 months she spent lying to everyone. Not the delayed email where she fantasized about my funeral. Me. Silence on the other end. Then, she told me about that email. She said it was just words, that she was angry and hurt and wrote something stupid. She set it up to send automatically. That's not just words. You're destroying her over a mistake. I laughed. Actually laughed. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This was a choice. Multiple choices. Hundreds of them. She loves those kids. You're using them as weapons. I'm protecting them from a mother whose judgment is so compromised she started sleeping with a parent from her own classroom. Do you know what happens when that gets out? Because it will. These things always do. I'm asking you, his voice cracked. I'm begging you. Back off. Let her see the kids more. She needs them right now. What she needs is a therapist. What she needs is to accept consequences. I'm not responsible for her mental health. If something happens to her, that's on you. The threat was clear. Not legal, emotional, public. If Jessica hurt herself, Blake would make sure everyone knew I'd driven her to it. If something happens to her, I said carefully, it's because she made another choice, just like all the others. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I powered it down and sat in the silence of my kitchen. Tom Brennan called my office line an hour later. Jessica's attorney just contacted me. They want to talk settlement. I leaned back in my chair. Through the window, I could see Danny directing a concrete pour. Normal work, normal day. Everything about my life looked normal from the outside. What are they offering? Joint custody, standard visitation schedule. She keeps her car and her retirement account. You keep the house and your business assets. No spousal support from either party. No, Hear me out. No. We go to trial. I want full custody with supervised visitation. Tom was quiet for a moment. Her attorney mentioned concerns about Jessica's mental state. They're positioning this as a mental health crisis triggered by the divorce proceedings. Triggered by getting caught. They're going to argue you've been unnecessarily aggressive, that you're using the kids as punishment. I'm using documented evidence of poor judgment and deception. The affair with a parent from her school isn't punishment. It's fact. They'll say you're being vindictive, that you've refused reasonable compromises. I thought about Blake's phone call, about pink bathwater and skipped meals and sleeping pills, about the narrative being constructed around Jessica as victim. What does her mental health crisis look like in court? I asked. Tom hesitated. If she's genuinely unstable, it supports your custody argument. But if she's hospitalized or in treatment, they might ask for a continuance. And if something worse happens, I become the villain who drove her to it. Yes. I watched Danny outside. He was gesturing to one of the new guys, showing him how to smooth the concrete properly. Patient, teaching, the world kept turning. What do you recommend? Honestly, if you want to win and win clean, you need her to stay functional enough to get through the custody evaluation. Not hospitalized, not in crisis, just present enough to show the judge exactly who she is. And if she's not, then we're playing a different game entirely. I thought about the delayed email, about 7 months of lies, about coming home to find her making spaghetti while Blake's words were still fresh in her inbox. She's tougher than Blake thinks, I said. This is performance. You sure about that? I wasn't. But I couldn't afford doubt. Schedule the custody evaluation. Don't respond to the settlement offer. We proceed as planned. All right, but I need you to document any communication from Blake or Jessica, anything that could be construed as harassment or manipulation. Already doing it. After we hung up, I sat staring at my powered-down phone. The smart play was to turn it back on, screenshot Blake's messages, add them to the file. Evidence of Jessica's instability. Evidence of Blake's involvement in her life while she was supposed to be focused on being a mother. But something stopped me. Not compassion. I'd examined myself carefully for that emotion and found nothing but cold assessment. It was strategy. If Jessica actually hurt herself, I won by default but lost the larger war. Public opinion would crucify me. Emma and Tyler would grow up knowing their father had driven their mother to whatever happened. Blake would make sure of it. But if Jessica stayed functional enough to fight and lose, if she stood in court and the judge saw exactly who she was, the teacher who'd slept with a parent, the wife who'd planned for her husband's funeral, the mother who'd prioritized her affair over her children, then I won everything. I needed her whole enough to destroy herself. I powered the phone back on. Blake had called 6 more times. There were 3 text messages, each more desperate than the last. I typed carefully. Take her to a doctor. Get her evaluated. If she's genuinely in crisis, she needs professional help, not your amateur psychology. And tell her the custody evaluation is in 2 weeks. She needs to be present and functional for it. Her choice. I hit send before I could reconsider. The response came back almost immediately. You're a monster. I set the phone down and went back to work. Maybe I was. But monsters win. The custody evaluation took place on a Tuesday morning. Fitting, somehow. Jessica arrived at the evaluator's office in Carmel, looking almost like herself again. Hair washed, makeup applied. The gray dress replaced by something in soft blue. Blake had gotten her stabilized. Or she'd stabilized herself. Either way, she was functional enough to sit across from Dr. Patricia Warner for 3 hours and answer questions about parenting philosophy, daily routines, and emotional regulation. I had my session the following day. Same questions, Same clinical office with its abstract art and tissue boxes positioned at strategic intervals. Tell me about your relationship with your children, Dr. Warner said. I told her about Tyler's soccer practices, about Emma's piano recital last month, where she'd played Beethoven and only missed 2 notes, about bedtime routines and homework battles and the way Tyler still couldn't tie his shoes but refused to wear Velcro because that's for babies. And how have they adjusted to the separation? They ask about their mother. They're confused, but they're doing okay. Do you think they should have more time with her? I chose my words carefully. I think they should have a mother who makes good choices, who prioritizes their welfare over her own desires, who doesn't lie to them about where she's going or who she's with. Dr. Warner made notes. Her face revealed nothing. The home studies came next. A social worker named Margaret Allen. I'd almost laughed at the name, remembering Tom's list of forbidden names, but apparently Margaret Allen was common enough. Visited both residences. She came to my house on a Thursday afternoon, walked through every room, noted the kids' bedrooms I'd set up. Emma's painted lavender with her artwork on the walls. Tyler's with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. The refrigerator stocked with healthy food and the occasional juice box. The calendar on the wall showing soccer practices and piano lessons and dental appointments. You've thought of everything, Margaret said. I'm their father. She visited Jessica at Blake's apartment the following week. I got the report later through Tom. 1 bedroom. Jessica sleeping on the couch. No space set up for the children. Blake present during the entire visit, answering questions meant for Jessica. It doesn't look good for her, Tom said. The evaluator's report won't be final for another 2 weeks, but the preliminary indications are in your favor. The trial date was set for May 15th. 6 weeks away. Jessica's attorney made one more settlement attempt. Joint custody, equal parenting time, mediation for all major decisions. No, I told Tom. They're offering to drop any claim to the house or spousal support. I said no. Spring arrived. The trees budded. Emma's soccer season started. She decided to try it after watching Tyler play. I stood on the sidelines with the other parents, cheering when she scored her first goal. Jessica came to the next game. Court-ordered visitation had expanded to include extracurricular activities. She stood on the opposite side of the field with Blake, and I watched Emma's eyes track between us, trying to figure out where to look when she scored. Tyler's birthday was April 23rd. He turned 7. I threw him a party at home. His friends from school, a superhero cake from the bakery, presents wrapped in bright paper. Jessica came for an hour, supervised by the court-appointed monitor. She sang Happy Birthday, with tears running down her face. Tyler blew out his candles and wished for everyone to be happy again. The night before the trial, I couldn't sleep. Not from nerves. I'd prepared for this like every other important negotiation in my life. But from the finality of it. Tomorrow, a judge would decide. Tomorrow, 11 years of marriage would be reduced to a legal document and a parenting plan. Tomorrow, I would win. I got up at 3 a.m. and walked through the house. Stopped in Emma's room, watching her sleep with her stuffed elephant tucked under one arm. Stood in Tyler's doorway, listening to his soft breathing. This was what I was fighting for. Not revenge, not punishment. Them. The courtroom was packed. Jessica's mother was there, glaring at me from the 3rd row. My sister Rachel sat behind me with my parents. Blake wasn't allowed in. Witnesses had been excluded. Judge Foster entered. We all stood. The trial took 2 days. Jessica's attorney presented her case first. Character witnesses, teachers from Oakmont Elementary, who testified that Jessica was dedicated, professional, beloved by her students. Her mother, crying, talking about what a wonderful mother Jessica had always been. A therapist Jessica had started seeing, explaining that she was working through her mistakes and committed to growth. Then, Tom cross-examined. Mrs. Bennett, how long was your affair with Blake Patterson? Jessica's voice was barely audible. 7 months. And during those 7 months, did you lie to your husband about your whereabouts? Yes. Did you lie to your children? I didn't tell them where I was going. So you lied by omission? Yes. Did you use marital funds, money that belonged to both you and your husband, to pay for hotel rooms where you met your lover? Her attorney objected. Judge Foster overruled. Yes, Jessica whispered. Tom pulled out the printed emails. Read selected passages into the record. Jessica's face went red, then white. Her mother left the courtroom. Then came the delayed email. Mrs. Bennett, can you explain this message? Jessica looked at the judge. It was a fantasy. I was angry. I never meant. You set it up with an automated service. That requires deliberate action. I know how it looks. How it looks, Tom said, is that you were planning a future with your lover that began after your husband's death. That you'd thought through the logistics, that you'd imagined his funeral. I would never hurt him. But you did hurt him. You hurt him for 7 months. You hurt your children by destroying their family. You hurt everyone who trusted you. Jessica started crying. I felt nothing. The next day was my turn. Tom walked me through the timeline, discovering the affair, documenting the evidence protecting the children, the delayed email, the hotel visits, the lies. Jessica's attorney cross-examined. Mr. Bennett, isn't it true that you continued intimate relations with your wife even after discovering her affair? Yes. Why? I was gathering evidence. So you used your wife physically while planning to divorce her? Tom objected. Judge Foster sustained it. But the damage was done. I could see it in the judge's face, a flicker of distaste. Mr. Bennett, do you believe your wife loves her children? I believe she's capable of love. I don't believe she's capable of putting their needs first. Based on one affair? Based on 7 months of lies? Based on planning a future that required my death? Based on choosing her own desires over her family's welfare repeatedly? Do you think the children should have no relationship with their mother? I paused. This was the moment. The one Tom had warned me about. I think they should have a relationship with a mother who's proven she can be trusted. She hasn't done that yet. The evaluator's report was entered into evidence. It recommended primary custody to me, with Jessica receiving supervised visitation until she could demonstrate stable housing and consistent parenting. Blake's involvement was noted as a concern. The affair with a parent from her school was noted as a serious judgment issue. The delayed email was noted as troubling, though not necessarily indicating intent to harm. Jessica's attorney called her back to the stand. Mrs. Bennett, do you love your children? More than anything in the world. Do you regret your affair? Every day, every minute. If given the chance, would you prioritize your children over everything else? Yes, absolutely yes. She looked directly at me. I made terrible mistakes. I hurt everyone I love. But I'm still their mother. I'm still Emma's mom and Tyler's mom. That doesn't change because I failed as a wife. Her voice broke. Please don't take them from me completely. Please. Judge Foster called a recess. We reconvened an hour later. I've reviewed all the evidence, Judge Foster said. This is a difficult case. Mrs. Bennett's actions were deeply troubling. The affair itself, the deception, the poor judgment in conducting a relationship with a parent from her school. The delayed email, while not evidence of criminal intent, shows a concerning mindset. She looked at Jessica. You violated your husband's trust in the most fundamental way. You lied to your children. You used family resources to support an extramarital relationship. These are not small mistakes. Then she looked at me. However, Mr. Bennett, I'm also concerned about your approach. The surveillance, the strategic intimacy, the immediate custody grab, these suggest someone more interested in punishment than in what's actually best for the children. My jaw tightened. That said, the children's welfare is paramount. And right now, Mr. Bennett has demonstrated stable housing, consistent parenting, and appropriate prioritization of the children's needs. Mrs. Bennett is living with her affair partner in a one-bedroom apartment and has not established independent housing suitable for children. She shuffled her papers. Therefore, I'm awarding primary physical custody to Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Bennett will have supervised visitation twice weekly until she can demonstrate the following: stable independent housing, completion of counseling, and 6 months of consistent, appropriate parenting time. At that point, we'll revisit the arrangement. Jessica's attorney stood. Your Honor, my decision is final. Mrs. Bennett, you have the opportunity to rebuild your relationship with your children. I suggest you take it seriously. The gavel came down. I'd won. Jessica was escorted out by her attorney, sobbing. Her mother tried to approach me in the hallway, but Rachel intercepted her. Tom shook my hand. Congratulations. We got everything we asked for. I nodded. Signed the paperwork. Made arrangements for the formal custody order. That night, I picked up Emma and Tyler from Rachel's house and brought them home. Their home. We made dinner together, spaghetti, Tyler's favorite. We watched a movie. I tucked them into their beds. Emma looked up at me. Did you see Mom today? Yes. Is she okay? I thought about Jessica's face when the judge read the decision, the sound of her crying in the hallway. She will be, I said. Do you still love her? The question hit me harder than I expected. I sat on the edge of Emma's bed, choosing my words carefully. I love who I thought she was. But people aren't always who we think they are. That's sad. Yeah, it is. I kissed her forehead and turned out the light. Downstairs, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat in the kitchen. The house was quiet. The kids were asleep. I'd won custody, kept the house, protected my business, avoided spousal support. By every objective measure, I'd won. So why did it feel like I was sitting in the ruins of something that could never be rebuilt? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Blake again, probably. I didn't check it. Whatever he had to say didn't matter anymore. The judge had decided. The law had spoken. Emma and Tyler were mine. I'd protected them from a mother who'd chosen poorly, who'd lied, who'd planned for my death. I'd done the right thing. I finished the bourbon and went upstairs to bed. Lay in the darkness of the bedroom I used to share with Jessica, listening to the house settle around me. Somewhere across town, Jessica was probably crying, probably being comforted by Blake, probably planning her next move, the stable housing, the counseling, the long road back to unsupervised visitation. Or maybe she was writing another delayed email, another fantasy about futures that required someone's absence. I'd never know. And that was the thing about winning, I realized. You got everything you fought for. The house, the kids, the vindication. But you also got the knowledge of exactly what you'd become in the process. I wasn't the man I'd been a year ago. That man would have confronted Jessica immediately, would have yelled and cried and demanded answers. That man believed in second chances and working through problems. This version of me was harder, colder, more strategic, better equipped to protect my children, worse equipped to be the father they deserved. Emma's question echoed in my mind. Do you still love her? The honest answer was that I didn't know. Love had been surgically removed along with trust, replaced by something more durable but less human. Determination, strategy, the will to win. I'd won. And I'd keep winning every day by being the parent Emma and Tyler needed, by showing up, by being honest, by never ever putting my own desires ahead of their welfare, the way Jessica should have, the way I almost hadn't. Because the truth, the one I couldn't say to Emma, couldn't admit to Tom, could barely acknowledge to myself, was that I'd enjoyed it. The surveillance, the strategy, the moment when Jessica's face crumpled as she read those divorce papers. I'd enjoyed winning more than I'd mourned losing my marriage. What did that make me? Better than her, I told myself. More honest, more committed to the kids. But late at night, in the darkness, I wondered if I'd just found a more socially acceptable way to be broken. The bourbon bottle sat on my nightstand. I considered pouring another glass, decided against it. Tomorrow, Emma had soccer practice. Tyler had a play date. I had 3 client meetings and a site inspection. Normal life. Normal responsibilities. The life I'd fought for. The life I'd won. I closed my eyes and waited for sleep that wouldn't come, thinking about delayed emails and pink bathwater and the difference between justice and revenge. Wondering if there was a difference at all. Wondering if it mattered. Knowing that tomorrow I'd get up and make breakfast and help with homework and be the father my children needed, regardless of what I'd become in the process. Because that's what winners do. They keep going, even when they're not sure anymore what they've won. 6 months passed. Jessica got an apartment. 1 bedroom for her, a pull-out couch for the kids. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She completed her counseling, showed up for every supervised visit, on time, prepared with activities and snacks. The supervision was lifted in October. Emma and Tyler started staying with her every other weekend. Then 1 night a week. Then a full week-on, week-off schedule. I hated it every time they left. Hated packing their bags. Hated watching Jessica's car pull away with my children inside. But I did it. Because the judge had ordered it. Because Jessica had done everything required of her. Because Emma and Tyler needed their mother, even if she'd failed as a wife. Blake was gone by November. Jessica told me during a custody exchange, brief, professional, the way we'd learned to communicate. It didn't work out, she said. Turns out fantasy and reality are different things. I didn't ask for details. Didn't care. By December, we'd settled into a rhythm. Not friendly, but functional. We coordinated schedules via a co-parenting app, split holidays according to the custody agreement, attended Emma's piano recitals and Tyler's soccer games from opposite sides of the room. The Disney trip happened in July, just me and the kids. Emma cried the first night because Mom wasn't there. Tyler asked why we couldn't all go together like we'd planned. I didn't have a good answer. We rode the rides, met the characters, ate overpriced ice cream, made memories. But they weren't the memories we were supposed to make. One night, after the kids were asleep in our hotel room, I stood on the balcony overlooking the Magic Kingdom. Fireworks exploded over Cinderella's castle. Families walked below, holding hands, taking pictures, being whole. I'd won everything, and lost everything that mattered. Not Jessica. I didn't miss her. Didn't want her back. That part of my life was over. But I missed the version of myself that had believed in happy endings, that had trusted people, that had been capable of forgiveness. That man died the day I read those emails. This version, harder, colder, more strategic, was better at survival, better at protection, better at winning, but worse at everything else. Emma appeared beside me on the balcony. Can't sleep? Just watching the fireworks. She leaned against the railing. 9 years old, but already too wise. Do you think Mom's watching them too? Jessica was back in Indianapolis, alone in her apartment. Probably wondering what her children were doing. Probably regretting every choice that had led to this moment. Maybe, I said. I miss her. I know. Do you? I looked at my daughter. She deserved honesty, age-appropriate, but honest. I miss the family we used to be, but we can't go back to that. Because she made mistakes. Because we both did. Emma looked surprised. What mistakes did you make? I thought about strategic intimacy, about surveillance, about choosing victory over mercy. I forgot that winning isn't the same as being right. She didn't understand. She was 9. She wouldn't understand for years, maybe decades. But someday she would. Someday she'd face her own choice between justice and compassion, between protecting herself and extending grace. And I hoped she'd choose better than I had. We watched the fireworks together until they ended. Then I tucked her back into bed and stood in the doorway, watching my children sleep. I'd protected them, given them stability, kept them safe from a mother whose judgment had failed. And in doing so, I'd taught them that mistakes were unforgivable. That trust, once broken, could never be repaired. That winning mattered more than healing. The lessons I'd never meant to teach. The cost of victory I hadn't calculated. I thought about the delayed email, about Jessica planning for my funeral, about whether she'd actually wanted me dead or just wanted out and couldn't find the courage to leave. I'd never asked, never given her the chance to explain. Because I hadn't wanted explanations. I'd wanted weapons. And I'd found them. Used them. Won. The bourbon bottle was back home, waiting. But I didn't need it tonight. Tonight, I just needed to sit with the uncomfortable truth that I'd become exactly what I'd needed to become to protect my children. And that the man I'd become wasn't someone I particularly liked. But he was someone who showed up, who kept his promises, who put his children first, even when it cost him everything else. Maybe that was enough. Maybe it had to be. Because there was no going back. No reset button. No way to undo the choices that had led here. Just forward. One day at a time. One soccer practice. One piano recital. One custody exchange. Building a different kind of family from the ruins of the old one. Not better. Not worse. Just different. And maybe, eventually, that would be okay. The fireworks were over. The Magic Kingdom went dark. Tomorrow we'd go to Epcot. The day after, Hollywood Studios. We'd make our memories. Emma and Tyler would grow up. Eventually, they'd understand why their parents couldn't stay together. Eventually, they might even forgive us both. Until then, I'd keep showing up. Keep being present. Keep choosing them over everything else. The way I should have from the beginning. The way Jessica should have. The way we'd both failed, in our different ways. I closed the balcony door and went to bed, the weight of my victory pressing down like gravity. I'd won. And I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what, exactly, I'd lost in the process. But in the morning, I'd get up, make breakfast, take my children to the theme park, smile for pictures, be the father they needed. Because that's what you do when you win. You live with it.